I live in Norway, and I work with placemaking. I have a different educational background than some of the other placemakers here. Actually, my background is in political science, so I work a lot more with community engagement, with kind of the ideas of grassroots democracy, which is how I started working with BGB Active in 2021 on this project through the Active Citizen Fund. So I'm going to talk a bit about that today, and a lot more kind of about the ideas of placemaking and democracy and how they work together. So, next one, sorry. Yes, okay, so this project we started with research. Basically we wanted to see the similarities and differences between placemaking in Norway and in Bulgaria. They are very different countries. Norway, politically, Norway has a very high level of trust in government. People trust their governments, they follow rules, they're generally quite good, what you would call, good citizens in some ways, not in all. But we did find, when we did the research, that there was actually a lot of similarities between Bulgaria and Norway. So some of the main similarities that I think are really interesting in terms of placemaking are participation. While like I said, there's a lot higher levels of trust in Norway in government, participants in both Norway and Bulgaria tend to be consulted on projects. So it tends to be kind of people like me, people who work for organizations, people working for municipalities who are kind of implementing the work in terms of doing the main decision making and involving people at kind of a later stage once they've decided what to do. So the people aren't often leading the project. So in placemaking we say, as Vivian said, the community is the expert. But often, I think if we look critically at ourselves, at least placemaking work that we've done in Norway, we tend to, our community of activists tends to do the kind of brunt of the beginning of the work and consults people at the end. And so this idea, I think what one of the people in the crowd mentioned, if I understood it correctly from the translation, about kind of getting more people in the community involved, that is something that we need to do better in both countries. Yes. So sorry, I should say quickly, what we did was we did interviews with people and we asked about their objectives in the projects, their assumptions, their target groups, how accessible they were. That's, I think, a really important point is that we've talked about a lot, like just talking face to people. How accessible are you to people on the ground? And then we looked at participation by the communities. Okay, so what is the place of democracy in placemaking? What is placemaking and democracy? As Vivian mentioned, placemaking is about designing places, designing spaces for people, designing public spaces that people will actually use, that people like, that make people socialize with each other. Democracy, just very basically, obviously, is kind of ruled by the people, but we're talking a little bit more about participatory democracy here. So how do people participate in decisions that affect their lives? We're not talking about elections. We're talking about, as I mentioned, there are discussions between participants, which good places will enable more discussions between participants. People from diverse backgrounds will come together at events and work together and on a clear task or a purpose. So when we talk about participation in placemaking, we want people basically, we want to use this concept that the community is expert, but we want people to join with other people in their voices. So get together with like-minded people to make changes together. Yeah, so research shows, so basically, placemaking uses democracy in a way that we want to take the voice of the people and make better public spaces. So we're kind of using democracy as a means to make better public places. With this project, what we've kind of said is, well, we can also flip that around. We can use placemaking to have better democracies. So placemaking, by getting people together, by working together on a common goal, by setting aside our differences, maybe we have completely different values in terms of what we believe for the kind of national political system, but in our neighborhoods, maybe we can agree on the first step to take together, and I think that's the most important thing that we can focus on. So placemaking, I believe, can be a catalyst for democracy. So once people start getting together and they work together on a topic, I think that they can start gaining trust. So if people working from organizations like BGB Active, like I do in Norway, can work together with people at the local level, if people from the municipality are there and we're all kind of working together, then we start gaining these relationships of trust, which can contribute to better, more active citizenship. So this is kind of the big picture of the project, like why do we want to use placemaking for democracy? So as I said, we want to increase trust. Bulgaria tends to have a low level of trust from the population to public administration, but also towards NGOs. And so we want to try to increase that trust. We also want to increase democratic participation in public space development, and we think that these things are linked. So if we increase participation in public space development, as I said, we get people talking to each other, then what we can do is this can lead to better trust. And how will we know? Well, we're doing research on this. So we're using theory of change methodology and surveys of citizens to kind of find out over the long term, and this is a long-term process that isn't happening within the confines of this project funding, but it's something that we want to keep working on because we believe this positive cycle of placemaking, where placemaking leads to more voice, and voice leads to more placemaking. So we think we can create this positive cycle by combining these aspects together. All right, so how do we do this? We've been using the ladder of citizen participation. So basically, how do we measure participation? How do we know that people are participating? This is the idea of this is that you move from kind of non-participation with manipulation, which is obviously bad, education informing, and then to this kind of the highest rung, which is citizen control. I want to explain that the ideal is not always to be at the top of the ladder, and I think that that's really important. It is really important sometimes to do education, to inform people of what's going on, and it really depends on what stage you're in the process, and what type of project you're doing. So yeah, so the goal isn't always to kind of move to the top, but what is really important about using the ladder of citizen participation is that we're honest with ourselves, that we reflect on, even as activists or as organizers, okay, what level am I at on the, and what level am I enabling other people to be at? And be honest and open. Maybe we've started with youth sometimes, just showing them the ladder. Where do you think you're at, because just getting people to reflect on this idea of participation can allow them to move up if they want. And I think that's also really important, that not everybody wants to move up, and not everybody needs to move up on the ladder. So maybe sometimes I just want to be educated about a topic, and that's okay. I don't want to get more involved. So not every community member needs to get more involved. Not every community member needs to be on the ground pushing for change or, painting the street. But some people will. And so just informing them at least of the process and giving them opportunities to reflect on and be honest with themselves of what their role is and what they want their role to be is really important. So yeah, so we've used this ladder, and I think the most important idea I think that we take out of this is to be honest about our reflection. Yeah. So how do we use this in our work? Okay, so we've made this Placemaking for Democracy toolkit, and we made this for the community, and we also made a toolkit for the municipality. So because everybody basically has a role to play in making our cities better places for everyone. You might have different roles at different times, but I think that the important point is that we all have a role to play. So the community has responsibilities as being citizens, and the municipality has responsibilities in their role. And organizations, NGOs, nonprofits have a role to play too. Yeah, so if we want to increase trust, like I said, everybody has a role to play. And the theory is that if we get more participation, we can increase trust. So whether we work in the municipal government or we're community resident, we need to reflect on our level. And I did this workshop in Burgos, and we talked about, you know, how does a good citizen act? And I think, again, it's about reflecting on your role. So it's not just about saying, oh, the municipality didn't do this, you know, this nonprofit has money and they should have been doing this, but it's about thinking of myself as a citizen, what should I be doing? So it's not about complaining, and I think that's a really important point, is that we can't just constantly complain. There is a place sometimes if you're pushing and pushing and pushing. Of course, there's a place to kind of make complaints sometimes, but I think that that's not the place to start. The place to start is by being positive and reflecting on our own roles and what we can do to make the cities better place. So how does a good citizen act? How does a good municipal official act? And I actually took this from, I work quite closely with a municipal district in Oslo, where I live. And this was something that one of the municipal officials brought up at a workshop that we had. And she said that this was a question that they continually ask themselves when they go into working. So what do I do if I'm a municipal official? Not, you know, checking the boxes, filling out of my job guidelines, but really, if I think about it honestly, you know, if I want to make the city a better place, what is my role? What can I physically do? Yeah, so I think what she kind of mentioned is talking a lot about what we can personally do to make change. And that's not saying that there doesn't need to be structural change, but that's saying that if we want to have an open and honest discussion, we also have to be honest about what we personally can do and what we personally can work on. And not to just blame others, not to kind of look and constantly say that, okay, this person should be doing this. And she said, let's just stop saying should, let's talk about what I can do. Yeah, so then this is again based on this municipal district in Oslo. So what they did, I should mention this district that we've been working with. It's a very, it's kind of a low socioeconomic status neighborhood. A lot of people from immigrant backgrounds. So they actually have a lot lower trust in the municipal government than a neighborhood which I would say would be more Norwegian. And so they kind of made these main principles, and I think this also speaks to what someone was talking about in the panel about different levels. So sometimes the community isn't very active, and so then we need to think about, okay, how if you're working for a municipality, you need to think about how do we take a proactive role? How do we get in contact and try to find those people that want to work on the things that you want to work with, and work together with them, kind of what they say in Oslo is kind of hold their hand and help people do, the active people do what they need to do. And then later, if you get to, you know, a culture where citizens are very active in their communities, then you kind of play a little bit of a more reactive role in terms of supporting people. So people coming to the municipality and saying, we're going to do this, and say, okay, great, we can help you in this way. But the main principles that I think are really, really important are to trust the process. What the municipal official in Norway said, that is the most important part of her job is giving away power. That is a little bit counterintuitive sometimes, but basically giving away power means that you accept that you can't do everything, that you need the community to help you to complete your goals, and accept that you don't necessarily know how that's going to end. Maybe you have an idea in your head of where things could be going, but the community has a completely different idea, and once you start working together, you might come up with a third completely different idea, and that's okay. So it's more about the process, that the process is that we're working together to make a better place, and lead, but let the initiatives kind of organically come up. And another really, really important point is to keep trying, that there are going to be ups and downs. In Norway, just, I don't know if just as much, but I think so. I think in everywhere you work with people, it's always difficult working together. We have different ideas, we have different backgrounds, and we just need to keep trying. Yes, so this is a worksheet. I'm not going to go into this at all, but we created, so I said we created a community toolkit. Based on the, and this is a municipal toolkit. So it's about what level of participation do we need. So going back to the ladder of citizen participation, it's about deciding what impact your decision is going to make on the community, and then how to work from that. So if your decision is going to have a low impact on the community, you're going to do a very different process of engagement than if your decision is going to have a high impact on the community. Yeah, so this is about putting the ladder of participation basically into action. So if you're doing, depending on the process, you're kind of making, I'm looking at this from a municipal perspective right now, saying that, like I said, everyone has a role. So the municipality's role at a very low level of, like I said, informing, and that's completely fine, is that they'll keep people informed. In a more kind of involved decision-making process, it's about working together with people, and then later in the process, it's maybe that we'll decide together. So. Yeah, so basically, just being clear. This is again about being open and honest, and I think that is the most important point, that everybody is, like I said, reflecting on themselves, but being open to people. When you talk to people, being open. Okay, this process, this decision, we're just going to be informing people, and that's okay as long as we're open with people about that. We've already decided what we're going to do, and in this case, you know, we're just going to keep you informed, and that's okay. I think the most important point is that we continue to be honest with each other and have these open discussions. All right, so why? Why should you do this? Well, we get better results. We know that. We know that people come to better decisions when they deliberate together. We know that you know, there's research on public deliberation. The human brain is supposed to be social. We're social animals. When we talk together, we come to better solutions. They've done research even on, you know, like a math problem where if you have an expert in the situation, and if that expert deliberates with people who maybe know nothing really about the subject, they will come to a better solution than if they try to make that decision on their own. And I think this is a really important thing that we all need to remember, is that even if I'm an expert, if I talk to, you know, people that may not have any knowledge of the topic, just that process of deliberation, we will come to a better solution together. And I think that is the most important point of why we need to say the community is expert, why we need to talk to people when we do placemaking, is because we will come up with better solutions together. We will work together and we will come with better solutions. But there are obviously some more kind of concrete things that, you know, it can lower costs. You can get funding, and in the long term, if you consult with the community, of course, you get better solutions. Yeah. All right, so where to start? And I think, as Vivian mentioned with the camper, that's also, we did research in Bulgaria, and it's also what the municipality that we work with in Norway has done. Just go down to the people, that sounds bad, go work together with the people on the same level. And so saying down actually was a good point, because I think normally, I mean, if a person has to come in and to a municipal office and they need to apply for a permit or something, you have this desk and they're filling out a form, and there is this relationship of power that makes it almost impossible to have an open discussion with that person, because you've kind of already created a barrier between yourself. Also, as nonprofit workers, sometimes, you go into community work and you're presenting. I'm on stage right now, you guys are sitting and listening, and so it creates a very different dynamic than if you set up a pop-up event, these kind of lighter, quicker, cheaper events, where you meet the people and you can break down these power differentials by making it very kind of do-it-yourself, not this very formal environment, but an informal kind of have food, make it cafe style, sit down with people and just talk to them, talk about how they feel about their neighborhood, talk in a friendly manner, just so that you're not gathering information from people, but that you're meeting people where they are, and the goal is just to create these relationships. Because in the long term, those relationships are what is going to make change. So finding people that want to change their communities, that want to work, that can honestly reflect on their positions, and you're not going to find those you will get some by getting volunteers, but if you're physically in the community, then you're more likely to, over time, meet people and kind of get this active group of citizens that will eventually make change. But it takes time. Okay, so the conclusions. The most important thing here is that we all have the same goal. We all want to create better living conditions. We all want to make better cities for people. We want a working environment that's happier and healthier. And we can't get there by blaming each other. We can't get there by saying, you should do this, you should do this. We can only get there if we say, okay, what can I do? We can't fight over the details. We need to work, we need to reflect on our roles, and we need to be persistent, and we need to talk to each other. So we need to have these events where we are accessible to the public, both as nonprofits, as municipal actors. We need to be there with them, building relationships so that people feel comfortable talking openly together. And there will be some conflicts, but I think that, like I said, that we know that discussing things, deliberating together, we will get better solutions in the long term. So yes, so placemaking for democracy. It is a way of building trust and democratic citizenship, and I would add kind of active citizenship. It needs to be all the time. This is a long process, and so this is about being accessible to people all the time. Everyone gains from it, and we need to share power. We need to continue to work at it, even when it's difficult. We need to be persistent, and we need to be on the street, having face-to-face conversations, interactions, and working together. Thank you.